Here's why snow could reignite the war between fire and ice. What if I told you that the next Game of Thrones saga isn't just fan service, but a powder keg waiting to explode the entire Westeros mythology we thought we understood? Buckle up, because Jon Snow's sequel series is about to flip everything on its head. And the Long Night? Yeah, that might have just been the appetizer. Before we dive deeper into this icy rabbit hole, hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell, because trust me, you're going to want front row seats when we break down every detail, theory, and bombshell coming out of Westeros. Your future self will thank you. So let us talk about why Snow, the upcoming Jon Snow sequel series, is not just another cash grab from HBO, but potentially the most dangerous story they have decided to tell. Because here is the thing, when Game of Thrones ended in 2019, we were told the story was over. The Night King was defeated, the Iron Throne was melted, and Jon Snow rode off into the frozen wasteland with his furry friends like some medieval cowboy into the sunset. Neat bow, credits roll, everyone pretends Season 8 did not happen. Except HBO looked at that ending and said, hold my dragon fire. What if we actually gave fans what they wanted? Now, Kit Harington himself has been dropping breadcrumbs about this project, and every single one of them points to something massive. We are not talking about a feel-good redemption arc where Jon builds snow forts with Tormund and Ghost. No. We're talking about reopening the can of worms that is the White Walker threat, the prophecies that were conveniently forgotten, and the uncomfortable truth that the Long Night was defeated way too easily for something that was hyped for 8 seasons. Let us rewind for a second. The White Walkers were supposed to be the ultimate endgame threat. Thousands of years of buildup, ancient prophecies, the prince that was promised, Azor Ahai reborn, all pointing toward an apocalyptic showdown between fire and ice that would reshape the entire world. And what do we get? One good stabbing from Arya Stark, and poof, threat neutralized. It was like watching someone prepare a 5-course meal and then serving you a gas station sandwich. Delicious? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely not. But here's where Snow gets interesting and terrifying. Because Jon Snow going back beyond the wall is not just a geographical choice, it is a narrative bomb. Think about it. The wall still stands, sort of. The Night's Watch technically still exists, even though their primary job description just became obsolete. And Jon, the man who literally died and came back, who has Targaryen blood running through his veins, who was allegedly the prince that was promised before the show, kind of forgot about that, is now wandering around in the exact territory where the White Walkers originated. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, literally everything. Here is the uncomfortable truth that Game of Thrones never really addressed. The Night King was not some random villain who showed up for chaos. He was created by the Children of the Forest as a weapon against the First Men. He was magic, ancient magic, the kind that does not just disappear because someone got stabbed with Valyrian steel. Magic in Westeros has rules, consequences, and a nasty habit of coming back when you least expect it. Killing the Night King was like cutting the head off a hydra and assuming the job is done. Spoiler alert, there are always more heads. And let us talk about those prophecies because, boy, did Game of Thrones leave those threads dangling like Bran's legs off a tower. The prince that was promised, Azor Ahai, the one who would be born amidst salt and smoke, whose coming was prophesied to signal the return of dragons and the war against darkness. Jon Snow checked almost every single box on that cosmic to-do list. Born amidst the blood of his dying mother, salt water, check. House Targaryen, the House of the Dragon, check. Literally fought the army of the dead, check. But the prophecy was never fulfilled, not really. Arya killed the Night King, which was awesome, do not get me wrong, but it left this gaping hole in the mythology. Snow has the opportunity to actually address this. What if the prophecy was not about preventing the Long Night, but about what comes after? What if Jon's real purpose is not to defeat the darkness, but to prevent it from returning? Because if we have learned anything from George R.R. Martin's writing, is that magic always demands a price, and that bill is coming due. Now, let us get into the really spicy territory. The others, what we call White Walkers, were never fully explained in the show. We got a brief flashback about their creation, sure, but their motivations, their culture, Their actual endgame beyond turning everyone into popsicles, all mysteries. The books, however, hint at something far more complex. The others have their own language, their own society, and potentially their own reasons for marching south that go beyond simple villainy. What if they were not invading? What if they were fleeing from something worse? Imagine Jon Snow discovering that the real threat is not the White Walkers themselves, but what created them in the first place. The magic of the Children of the Forest, the same magic that runs through the weirwood trees, the same magic that gave Bran his powers, might be the real ticking time bomb. Magic and ice, magic and fire, both sides of the same dangerous coin, and Jon is standing right in the middle of it with his Targaryen blood and his connection to the north. This brings us to the fire part of the equation, because you cannot have ice without fire, and you cannot tell a Jon Snow story without acknowledging his dragon blood. Daenerys is gone, probably permanently despite what some fans hope, but her legacy is not. Dragons existed again because of her. Magic returned to the world in full force because of her. And that magic does not just vanish because the mother of dragons took a bad trip to the throne room. There are whispers in the fandom, supported by George R.R. Martin's own writings, that more dragon eggs exist in the world. As high, the Shadowlands, even potentially frozen beneath the ice in the far north. What if Snow reveals that dragons and White Walkers are two sides of the same ancient magical war, and Jon Snow, being both Stark and Targaryen, ice and fire incarnate, is the only one who can either end it permanently or doom everyone by choosing wrong? That is not just good television, that is mythology-defining storytelling. Here is another layer. The wildlings, the free folk, accepted Jon as one of their own. They followed him south of the Wall to fight the dead. They saw him die and return. To them, Jon Snow is not just some brooding exile. He is a legend walking among them. But legends attract attention, and attention in Westeros usually means trouble. What if other factions beyond the Wall, groups we have never encountered, see Jon as either a savior or a threat? What if his very presence north of the Wall is destabilizing the fragile peace that exists in that frozen wasteland? So yeah, Snow could absolutely reignite the war between fire and ice, because that war might never have actually ended. We just stopped watching before the next round began. And Jon Snow, the man who knows nothing, might be about to learn the most terrifying truth of all, that the long night was not the ending, it was just the beginning. Thanks for watching, and winter is still coming.